Friends, we have a big question out there. This is a very important question, one that I think we've all thought about here or there. The question is, can he save America? And I'm talking about, politicians. I'm talking about the guys in the White House and other places. Can this group of people turn this thing around? Is it possible? We're going to talk about some of the challenges that we're facing as the United States and whether these are really surmountable problems or whether they're insurmountable problems. I think one thing we do need to acknowledge right from the get-go is the guy in the White House is overcoming problems in such a way that it has surprised everybody. So we're going to talk about whether we think he can surpass or overcome these big monumental problems, or whether the tide is too strong, whether the flow is too strong and it's just an inevitability and that this is too little too late. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and we're talking about the things the mainstream media just won't talk about. We still are concerned about the national debt. Hitting, 37 trillion? It's hard to keep track anymore. Have we hit 38 trillion yet? We're getting awfully close if we haven't. But 37 trillion is the last number I remember. The interest that we're paying on that is more expensive than our U.S. military budget. We're spending more on interest than we are on U.S. military. And when you combine the U.S. interest on our national debt with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and a few other fixed costs that we've committed to making payments on, that's larger than the amount of taxes that are coming in. So if that's larger than the amount of taxes coming in, that's even before you hit the Defense Department, the FBI, all the other agencies that we could theoretically cut. If we cut everything from the federal government, everything from the federal government except for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, interest payments on the debt, boom, we would still have a deficit. And I think it's numbers like that that really help us understand why he's so adamant that the Federal Reserve cut interest rates. If they cut interest rates, that immediately will start dropping the amount of money that the United States government has to lay out for interest payments. Because we're about to hit a Minsky moment. Minsky moment is when the interest payments are so high that they cause the loaners to see the person or the entity as fundamentally insolvent. So they raise the interest rates on the loan, which causes them to have higher interest payments, which makes them less solvent, which creates a higher interest demand from the loaners, and it creates a spiral that basically implodes the whole thing, because eventually they can't borrow money and in order to make the payments, because that's what we're doing in the United States now, is that we are borrowing money to make interest payments. And the Federal Reserve is not playing ball. The Federal Reserve's like, let's just let it collapse. Jerome Powell's like, let's watch the world burn. He doesn't like the person in office right now, and so therefore he wants to see the whole world burn. And that's kind of a scary thought right there. And we got all the forces of darkness arrayed against him in the media, social media, and you're like, Steve, why aren't you saying his name? This is the day and age that we are in. We used to not be able to talk about the COVIDs. Now we can't talk about the dude in the White House. Can't do that. Hopefully I'm circumventing that by referring to him the way I am. But I've been seeing that whenever I talk about him, I get hammered by the algorithm. It's crazy. So we got the forces of darkness opposed to him from all the tech companies, all of the media companies are arrayed against him. That's kind of always been that way. But the Federal Reserve is actively opposing and actively sabotaging both the economy as well as the federal government when it comes to interest payments. So we got that happening. Then we have the disloyalists over at the FBI and the other federal agencies. We've seen this active resistance happening from the agencies that are supposed to report directly to them. But even though we all voted for this person to be in charge, these bureaucrats are like, well, it doesn't matter who you voted for, we're not going to follow him. Now, I don't throw terms around like insurrection around too loosely, but these people are borderline insurrection. Treason is another word there. When you've taken the oath of office and then you then fight against the republic that you have sworn an oath to, the Constitution gives us the power to put the person in charge of these agencies, and if those agencies won't recognize the person in charge, they are undermining and rejecting the U.S. Constitution. And that's not just happening occasionally, that's happening consistently and is become the rule, not the exception. But not only that, we have in our economy, we'll talk about our economy, the red tape economy, and we're going to talk about the godless economy. That's a whole nother subject there that we'll get to in just a moment. The lack of morality. Now, if you're an atheist or you don't agree with me on religion, we're just talking more about just the immorality inside the marketplace is crippling our economy. People just aren't treating each other very well. But before we get to that, let's talk about our overextended military. Our overextended military. Our military is powerful, but our opponents are becoming more powerful. Everyone has laughed at the Chinese military for a good number of years because you go to the Dollar Tree, you buy something from China, and it breaks. And people just can't imagine a military that's being made in China, right? But in the recent showdown between Pakistan and India, the weapons that were fielded by Pakistan that came from China surprised everybody. And the fact that those missiles had as long of a range as they did surprised the Indian military. They thought they were safe. They thought their aircraft were in safe zones away from Pakistani missiles. And those Pakistanis fired standoff missiles from much longer range than expected. And those missiles actually connected with French fighter jets inside India. And this was devastating. This was a devastating blow. Everyone's surprised, like, wait, the Chinese missiles can do that? What? Not only were they able to fly that far, but they were able to make connections, right? And so this surprised people. The Pakistanis were flying Chinese fighter jets, which performed at least tolerable, right? They were standing toe-to-toe with Russian aircraft, American aircraft, and French aircraft. These Chinese fighter jets were performing, tolerable. Surprisingly so. The Chinese military is growing more powerful, and whatever you want to say, I know you're getting fed all sorts of propaganda out there, but Bear Country, a country that we're not allowed to talk about too, Bear Country, even though they're in that conflict in Eastern Europe, they are actually becoming more powerful. Their industrial military complex has grown much more powerful. They're cranking out drones, they're cranking out missile systems, they're inventing new missile systems that the United States doesn't even have. We got the Oreshniks, we got other missile systems that they're just starting to deploy that use hypersonic technologies that the United States has arguably not cracked just yet. And I know people are like, ballistic missiles are hypersonic. Technically so. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about hypersonic cruise missiles, missiles that go like this, sideways, and not so much ballistic missiles that come in like that. And it's also, when they do come in, ballistic trajectories, are they maneuverable delivery vehicles, and do they continue to go hypersonic speeds even at relatively low altitudes, which ballistic missiles tend not to do because they slow down. They use the heat shields and aerodynamic braking in order to slow them down before they approach their target, whereas hypersonic glide vehicles continue to accelerate even into the lower atmosphere. Well, they start slowing down at the end, but they come in a lot faster with a lot more kinetic energy and with a lot more speed that makes it very difficult for air defense systems to engage them. All right, ballistic missiles are already hard to engage, but these hypersonic missiles are another level. And Russia is investing in these and rapidly developing, and then also rapidly deploying them in ways that we're not seeing in Western countries. It takes us forever to create a new wrench that we can use on the new destroyer that we're going to produce in 2040. Meanwhile, Bear Country is out there just cranking out new warships, cranking out new drone and missile programs. And that's what we're really seeing, which is the most concerning, is that even though China is out there building ships, both China and Bear Country are investing heavily in missile technology. The United States is overcommitted to defend so many different places, which worked when we had a superpower military and nobody else had anything. Now, we still have a superpower military that is in decline. Our military forces are less capable now than they were 10 years ago. And that may upset some of you, but it's the truth. It's the truth. The quality of soldiers right now, lower ranking soldiers are being replaced by people who do not have combat experience. 10 years ago, most of our soldiers had combat experience, which made them better soldiers. There were other problems with that, of course, but they had combat experience, and now our lower ranks are filled with soldiers that have never seen war. And that means our military is less potent, less powerful. Our Navy is having a hard time upkeeping its Navy ships. We've put a whole bunch of red tape on environmental rules and stuff like that, so they don't know what they're allowed to do anymore, and they're not allowed to clean their ships or paint their ships while at sea, which means after a deployment, they come back into port and they got rust stains all over them and they look horrible. And it feeds the myth that our military is weak. It's not weak, but it's not as strong and powerful and projecting as it used to be. Because quite frankly, your ship's looking nice and painted great and looking sharp projects intimidation and power. And when you lack that, you don't project as much power. And some people say that's not so important, but in peacetime, it absolutely is. If countries view you as weak, they're more likely to try to mess with you, which means you're going to have to extend your military more in order to protect against those threats, which makes you look weaker, which, there's a cycle. So we have massive commitments in Europe. We're supposed to defend a European continent that has more population against a country that has less population. We're supposed to defend that developed economy of countries against a country that has an economy like 1/4 of what Europe has. Why is the United States having to defend the rich, wealthy countries of Europe that have lots of personnel, lots of people that they could put into their military that they just choose not to? The United States is overcommitted in Europe, overcommitted in Korea. We still always have a massive rotation of soldiers and aircraft in Korea. South Korea, protecting another well-developed economy there that has lots of people from a country that has no economy. Why are we there? I mean, 70 years later, we're still patrolling the DMZ, which is ridiculous when you think about it. The DMZ, and then you also have the Asia Pacific region. We're supposed to be protecting Taiwan. We're supposed to be protecting the Philippines. We're supposed to be protecting Japan. We're supposed to be protecting all these other countries against China. We're just massively overextended. We're defending every country other than the United States. And the resident in the White House, the actual commander, is starting to change those things. But can he pull us back from these commitments and pivot us to actually engaging the threats that are impacting the lives of everyday Americans? And those are the threats that come from Mexico, from Canada, and from other countries directly into the United States. We have all sorts of problems inside the United States that our military needs to start protecting us from. We need to protect ourselves from people who shouldn't be coming in, who are dangerous, who are bringing dangerous things with them. And quite frankly, we don't even know who's in the United States, let alone what their agenda is. If their agenda is to build a great restaurant and to provide great service to everybody, then that's fantastic. That's awesome. But what about the person whose agenda is to wait until he gets orders from overseas to sabotage our power grid? Do we know about these people? Do we have a way of screening out these people? I mean, can we turn these things around? I was talking about the red tape economy, and we're going to get to the godless economy. The United States economy is so messed up. We don't make as much stuff as we should. We mostly have people sitting in offices doing paperwork, planning things, designing things. And artificial intelligence is going to steal a lot of those jobs. Do we have the wherewithal to get through this move from office buildings, office space, to actually building stuff again? Because AI at this point can't build stuff, but it can do a lot of these menial thought process tasks and can allow somebody to effectively be a team leader using artificial intelligence tools to accomplish more. We need more businesses. We need more products that we're creating. And we need to make this shift. Are we going to make this shift, or is this going to implode the U.S. economy? It's not looking good. Wealth is getting more and more concentrated into the few, and many, many people are being left behind. And that brings us to the godless economy. And again, I'm not necessarily trying to tell you what to believe and everything like that. I think a lot of you know where I stand on that. I am an evangelical Christian. I'm a pastor, and I train pastors and such. But what I'm talking about is the decline of morality. I think that we can recognize that today people do not look out for other people's interests as much as they did 20, 30, 40 years ago. We have seen this fundamental shift where people are less honest, or a larger number of people are less honest, right? This increasing number of people who are just grabbing what they can and running off with it, not providing value, who are cheating the system, who are cheating people, and running scams. This is, the fact that we have whole companies built on scams is truly appalling. So what do you guys think? Do you think that we can pull it out? Do you think we can turn this ship around? Or do you think it's too late? Do you think the United States can come back from this? Or do you think the United States is on a death trajectory of debt, military commitment, overcommitments around the world, and an economy that is collapsing? Let me know if we can turn the ship around, what you guys think. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report.